Today we are going to read a story about a tooth fairy. Alice liked collecting things. Unfortunately, they were things that made her parents say, "Oh, please, Alice, not this." For example, she had two stitches from when she had cut her chin, a dead beetle she found in the bath, and lots more. She kept everything in matchboxes, wrapped in tissue paper. Her father called her horror boxes. When a tooth fell out, however, there was no way she kept it. Teeth were for the tooth fairy. One evening, Alice sat in her room wiggling a loose tooth with her tongue and wrapped her Aunt Megan's birthday present. That was actually a bar of strawberry soap. Aunt Megan always spent her birthday with Alice's family. Aunt Megan was posh and loud, wore lots of makeup, and gave most disgusting kisses. She hated the horror boxes even more than Alice's parents. The doorbell rang, and Alice's mother shouted up the stairs, "Alice, come and say hello to your aunt." Alice flumped down the stairs. Excited grown-up babblings were already in full swing. And as she appeared, Aunt Megan gushed, "And here's your Alice. Haven't you grown up?" Alice winced at thought. "Oh, of course, that's what children do." "Come and give your auntie a kiss," said Aunt. Alice saw the big pink lips coming towards her, and then slurpy slobber. Perfume smelly, sticky, wet kiss. Yucks! The force of the kiss made not one, but both of Alice's front teeth come out. She used her tongue to explore the new warm holes in her gums. Then she spat the teeth into her hand and held them under her aunt's nose. "Aunt Megan, look what your kid did," she lisped. Aunt Megan did look at it and turned pale. "Oh my goodness," she wailed. "How revolting!" Then, with a sweep of her hand, she sent the teeth flying to the floor. While the grown-ups went to recover with cups of tea, Alice picked up the teeth and went to her room. She was furiously thinking, "How dare Aunt treat my teeth like that?" When she had an idea, she put one tooth under her pillow. Then she wrapped the soap, put the bloodiest tooth in the matchbox, and wrapped it up. "Happy birthday, Aunt Dragon," she said, and climbed into bed. Alice woke up in the night, feeling even more fed up, and decided to put the other tooth in Aunt Megan's present too. She reached under her pillow and, to her great surprise, grabbed a tiny hand. As she brought it out, a silver glow appeared. It was a fairy carrying Alice's tooth and a sack. "You're the tooth fairy," said Alice. "How you glow!" "Of course, that's what fairies do," said the fairy. Pointing at the tooth, she said, "Nice one." "What happened to the teeth you take?" lisped the front toothless Alice. "I'll show you," said the fairy. She took Alice's hand, and they both flew out of the window. To start with, they visited the bedrooms of sleeping children. The fairy disappeared under each pillow with a silver coin and emerged with a tooth, which she put in her sack. Then they flew to the North Pole to collect a baby polar bear's tooth from under its pillow. And finally to a smoky hot mountain for a huge dragon's tooth which lay under a pillow of hot coals. "What do you do with these teeth?" asked Alice. "Come on, I'll show you," said the fairy. They flew for ages, then the fairy started to dive. They were heading for the middle of a ring of mushrooms in a field. Nearer and nearer, faster and faster they got, until Alice was so scared she closed her eyes. "Hold on tight," called the fairy. Alice opened her eyes. The moon seemed enormous. The stars winked and twinkled brightly. The trees glowed, and the moonlight and the rivers looked like liquid silver. "Welcome to fairyland," replied the Tooth Fairy. The air was so fresh as a mountain air, but warm as the summer's evening. As they flew, Alice felt as if to a brightly lit house and looked through a window at a frantic activity inside. They flew for ages. Then the fairy started to dive. They were heading for the middle of a ring of mushrooms in a field. Nearer and nearer, faster and faster. They got until Alice was so scared that she closed her eyes. "Hold on tight," called the fairy. Alice opened her eyes. The moon seemed enormous, and the stars winked and twinkled brightly. The trees glowed in the moonlight, and the rivers looked like liquid silver. "Welcome to fairyland," replied a tooth fairy. The air was so fresh as the mountain air, but warm as a summer's evening. As they flew, Alice felt as if she would always be this happy. They soon came to a brightly lit house and looked through a window at the frantic activity inside. "What's going on?" asked Alice. "Well, I'm not the tooth fairy. I'm a tooth fairy. There's a lot of us. Come on," said the fairy, and they went inside. "We wash all the teeth in here," she said, pointing to a huge bath. They went into the next room. "This is where the most important thing happens. Watch." The clean teeth were put into a pot and the lid closed. The fairies gathered around. They pointed their fingers at the pot and sang a fairy song. Soon the air shimmered with magic. Alice had never seen anything so totally exciting. When the pot was uncovered, it was full of dazzling, shining pearls. We are the only fairies with this magic," said the Tooth Fairy proudly. In this pot were the teeth of rich children, poor children, good children, and naughty children. Yet each one has made a perfect pearl. Out of the ordinary comes the amazing. Alice had breakfast with the Tooth Fairies. Then it was time to go. She waved goodbye, and as they flew back, tired from her busy night, Alice dropped off to sleep. Alice woke up in her own bed. She mistily remembered what had happened. Had she dreamt it all? "Come on, Alice!" came a yell from downstairs. "Aunt Megan is waiting for her present." Alice looked at the clock. 9:30. She slipped out of the bed, grabbed her aunt's present, dashed downstairs and handed it over. As Aunt Megan was opening it, Alice remembered the truth inside. She turned red and tried to think of an excuse to leave. But it was too late. Aunt Megan opened the matchbox. Alice, she said, her eyes widening. How absolutely wonderful! She took from the box a pair of beautiful pearl earrings. Put them on me, dear. Alice did. When she looked at her aunt afterwards, she thought for the first time that she wasn't so bad after all. Out of the ordinary comes the amazing, she lisped. Beg your pardon, dear? Said Aunt Megan. Oh, nothing, replied Alice. Breakfast, anyone?